I'm covered, yeah. Not in gold or pearls or fame, but under his name. I'm covered.
Hey Tracy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very, very good. I'm very happy to see your face on camera because we talk a lot, but very rarely face to face, where well, never actually in real life because we live thousands and thousands of miles away from each other. But yeah, willing, one
Yeah.
day we'll see each other soon.
Yep.
So I want to introduce you as my shy and nerdy sister. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
And Tracy is really great at writing and compiling loads of data. And I kind of twisted your arm. It wasn't too much of a twisting, but I kind of twisted your arm to come on today so that you could use that big old brain of yours. And we wanted to talk. We've done recently on Bible Doulas a few shows about pharma, about plant medicine, and then leading into pharma, and then what we didn't talk about in those shows intentionally, because I had already planned to do this with Tracy, was the ingredients, some of the ingredients in pharmaceutical medication that would be undesirable to whole Bible believers. So we're going to talk tonight about kosher food, not kosher from the Talmudic perspective, kosher from the whole Bible believer of, Leviticus 11 and the ingredients that we would not want to consume if we believe that the food laws are for us. So talking about medication and then leading into actually talking about what is also in our food, or maybe we'll do it the other way around. So the hidden ingredients, the hidden non-kosher ingredients in some very unsurprising ingredient lists that I know Tracy, you've been looking at for a little while. So do you have like one really surprising ingredient that you could come up with? Something that you like did not expect?
Hair, I guess, would be one with
Oh
the
yeah.
bread.
You mentioned
That
that like
um,
casually the other
it's
day as though I knew what you were talking about and I didn't, and it's really gross. So why is there hair in bread?
yeah. Well, it's like a conditioner. They use it, but it could also be from like feathers and stuff too. So it just depends. But they don't tell you what it is. It's just called L-cysteine on the ingredient list. And so when I buy bread, I try to avoid that ingredient because with like a lot of ingredients, there's just like one label and it could be multiple different things and you just don't know. So I try to avoid those ingredients. So, I mean, I just,
L-cysteine is either feathers from who knows what kind of bird and or hair from humans.
yes, yes. So that was pretty surprising because I just learned that a few months ago from other brethren in the Torah community, and I
Yeah,
was
but
just
where are they
like,
getting the hair? I don't understand. Do you know where they get
I
it?
have no, I do not. I don't know. It's just super bizarre to me. Like why you would even think to do that. I have no idea.
So are
It's
we
gross.
putting that on our list of undesirable for whole Bible believers because it's like kind of like cannibalism? Like I'm trying to understand, where do we put it's just gross. That's first things first, it's just gross.
Yeah. Well, I would definitely say it's not something we should eat health-wise. It's not something I want to eat. So, as far as being unclean, I would say it probably is because, it's comes from a human. I don't know. I mean, it's one thing like when you see like John the Baptist wearing stuff with camel hair and things like that is okay. But when you're eating something like that, I think it's a different category. So that's how I would view it
All right.
personally. But
I'm with you. And I think too the idea that they don't disclose where it comes from, that's making me think of something that's come up a lot is rennet. Do you have any discoveries on rennet and whether we're like, because we've come across a couple of things. What I know is it could either be undisclosed porcine. Do we say porcine or pork belly?
it's porcine.
Porcine
Yeah.
or I've also seen that it could just be synthetic Pfizer rennet. So do you know what is true?
Yeah, because they don't really. I'm trying to look in my notes here because I have notes here. Let's see. Um, yeah, so basically it's just enzymes. Um, let's see. It just says enzymes are substances that help start or speed up a process in food production. So enzymes help ingredients change form, so like turning milk into cheese. So, and then with rennet, there can be three different kinds, which it could be animal rennet, or it could be microbial rennet, which comes from like microorganisms like bacteria, fungi, or yeast. And then you got the vegetable rennet, which also comes from plants or fungi. But when you get into those types of things, they could still be GMO, and you don't know where they come from. And then with the animal rennet, when I looked that up, it basically said that it comes from ruminant animals mostly, like calves, goats, or sheep. And from what I studied here, it says pigs have a single chamber because the enzymes actually come from the fourth stomach on the ruminants.
Hmm.
And so, since pigs only have a single chamber, they do not produce the type of rennet enzymes needed for cheese making.
That is,
But
sorry,
yeah,
well, it has been so pushed recently, and what I've seen is people are insisting it's all pork rennet, but from what you're saying, it sounds like slim
yeah,
chance. Yeah.
right, because they take it from the fourth stomach of ruminant animals. And obviously, pigs only have one chamber, so they're not producing the rennet enzymes needed for cheese making. But they do put it in processed cheeses. So let's see. It says, however, like gelatin can be put in like cheese products. So like the processed cheese slices or cheese spreads or cheese sauces, shelf stable cheese products, low fat or reduced fat cheeses, prepared cheese dips, and cheese baked snacks and stuff. So that's where they're putting in the gelatin and stuff like that. But as far as in the cheese making process itself, it's not in that because, like I just said, they don't have the enzymes to
Oh, it's such a
make
relief
the
because
cheese.
I've been worrying about the cheese that I do buy,
Yeah,
that if it just says rennet that it could possibly be pig, but from what you're saying, it's highly unlikely that the rennet is from pigs. Did you see
yeah.
anything about Pfizer or about synthetic rennet?
Yes.
Because it seems to me that would be cheaper and like a more favorable thing to.
Yeah. So, like, if I was going to buy cheese, I'd want to buy it cheese that's made from animal rennet because it's more likely to come from, like I said, the ruminant animals. Versus if you're buying the microbial rennet or the vegetable rennet, which comes from plants, which then can be GMO
Right.
or the Pfizer stuff because that's what they're buying up. Because it says, when I looked it up, it said many of the vegetable rennet is now owned by Pfizer. So that's the other thing too, is if you're going to buy cheese, I would buy cheese that's from animal rennet. And if you don't know, a lot of times you can contact, the people who are making the cheese, and find out, because that's what I do. If I don't know something, I'll email them or look on their website. And if it's not there, you can email them and contact them and find out, you know, just to be sure. So
Perfect.
personally, I'm gonna check my cheeses and make sure that it's actually from animal and not plants, because I don't want to be buying, you know,
It's
vegetable
so
rennet that
interesting
comes from
because
Pfizer.
we would think as people who are trying to avoid eating products from certain animals that the vegan or vegetable option would always be the safest, but from what you're saying, it's the complete opposite. Chances are you're not going
Yeah.
to get pig rennet in your cheese because they don't have the fourth stomach and it doesn't make sense to use it. But you have to watch out for gelatin that could be porcine gelatin. What I have noticed in shopping both in the
Yeah.
States and in Canada, there's a lot of pork gelatin up here. They put pork and like even pies, like homemade pies from the knife
Oh yeah.
shops you get here, it's always pig lard. And
Yeah.
even like pre-made uh crust so that you can make your own pies. It's pig lard. It's very, very hard to find anything but. Whereas when I go down to the States, there are a lot more options. And I don't know if it's because there are so many cows in the States. Like when I go to Western New York, it's like I think there are more cows than humans in that particular place, and there's just lots of cheese options. And
Yeah. Yeah. So that was the number one on my list was gelatin, um, which they do put it in a lot of things. That's why I don't buy puddings, jellos, um, like the puddings that come in a box, I don't know if those are called instant puddings or something. Like I used to buy stuff like that. I don't buy any of that because it all has gelatin in it. Um, Frosting, glazes, mousses, cake fillings. I mean, it's in so much stuff.
marshmallows.
Protein bars. Yeah, I buy vegan marshmallows. And then yeah, the no bake cheesecakes, custards, yogurts. I mean, you just really have to check. Ready Whip, I just saw that the other day, which that will say gelatin on the ingredient list. So that one's kind of one that's not hidden really, but
Do you know what? I'm not even sure what Ready Whip is. Is it like I don't know what that is.
it's like a whipped cream that comes in a can and you just
Ah,
like,
okay. And what is it listed at
yeah,
then? Is it what is the listing of like I'm super sorry. I feel embarrassed. This is the second time on a podcast. I'm not going to say this. Monodiglyceride. Do you know the one I'm talking
yes.
about? Is
Yes,
that what
that
you're
was the
talking
next
about?
one on the list.
Oh, okay, great.
The other stuff that I was just talking about will be listed as gelatin on the ingredient list. So that one, like I said, isn't really hidden. It's in all the stuff I just mentioned. You just have to look on the ingredient list, and if it says gelatin, I would avoid it unless it says specifically that it's from
And for
bovine
me,
or
like
beef.
the yogurt I bought says gelatin and then in brackets it says bovine all the time. Otherwise,
Okay,
I just
yeah.
don't I take for granted that it could be
Yep.
pork and I don't buy it.
Yep, anything that has gelatin on it that doesn't say bovine on it or beef, I don't buy it because it's mostly pork. But like I said, that's not really hidden. What is hidden is, like you said, the monodiglycerides, which on that's in tons of breads, baked goods, tortillas, cookies, crackers, shortenings, non-dairy creamers, processed peanut butter, frozen meals and just things like that. And it's basically it's an emulsifier, so it helps things mix together like fat and water, because fat and water usually don't mix, or oils and waters don't mix well. So they use it as an emulsifier to mix these things together. And on the ingredient list, it'll say mono and diglycerides. That's all it says.
Mm.
And a lot of times it's derived from pork fat. So I avoid that ingredient. I won't buy like a pie that has that ingredient or bread or anything. I just avoid that ingredient altogether because it's another one where they don't tell you what it. So it could be, I mean, it's an animal fat. It says it can be from plant oils or animal fats, but it doesn't tell you which one. So, I avoid it because if it's pork fat, then I don't want to consume that. So I just completely avoid that ingredient altogether. So, and I know in other countries it's labeled as E471, but here in the States it's monodiglycerides. So
We're so used to it, even though I keep not saying it correct. I'm sure it's in the packages of some stuff I probably have in my cupboard. Some of us are going through
yeah,
this Daniel fast or cleanse. I'm not fasting. I'm eating so much because I'm not drinking coffee. I have a big appetite. Not eating meat or drinking coffee, so I'm like hungry. Um,
Yeah,
but part of that is to remove processed foods from our diets. And to be very, very honest, it's just not something I don't have a lot of processed food. I never have really had loads of stuff in my cupboard like that. But what I do have, crackers and stuff like that, when we hang up this call, I'm gonna go take a good look because it's not uh you do expect we know now you start reading the parts of the Bible that you believe are all of a sudden pertinent to you, you maybe throw out some salami that you had in the freezer or whatever thing, but then, then it can take some time before you clue in and like have this conversation that we're having. And I hope it blesses somebody
yeah,
and they go, and it's not an exaggeration to get rid of the food in your cupboard that has pork products. I think that that's bare minimum. Um, do you
yeah.
is it just pork? Are they sneaking any shellfish? Do you have any information about other ingredients that we should avoid that would be kind of sneakily in some products, or do they not? I guess they don't get many benefits of shellfish or anything like that. Although somebody messaged me today asking about oysters, which obviously I said yes right away. They are unclean, but they were in some vitamin supplement. So I don't know if you know
Yeah.
anything about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's something I have on my list
You got everything
for
on
when
your
we get,
list, Tracy. I'm worried I keep putting you
yeah.
on the spot, but you're so thorough. I knew
Oh
you were
no.
the person for the
Well, I
job.
have different lists. Like right now I'm on the food list, so I just made a list of different things. Like another one is the food coloring that's derived from the insects. That was something that I learned. It's called cochineal or carmine, and it could be listed as either one of those or crimson or natural red 4. And then it looks like in Europe it's E120. So, and that can be in candies, yogurts, ice cream, fruit drinks, juices, frostings, cosmetics, and medication or supplements.
So
So,
that word crimson signifies specifically that it is that little red beetle.
yep.
Wow.
And it's called, yeah, it's a red beetle and it's called cochineal or carmine.
Okay.
So, and yeah, and then crimson was another one. So it could be, labeled different things, but it's all the same thing. It's
Are there, not
how
that
they
we
get
want to
that.
be consuming red food dyes anyway, but are there some
Yeah.
red food dyes that are not from that bug? Or is pretty much any
Yeah,
food dye?
yeah, I mean, if it's labeled natural red 4, or like I said, any of these cochineal extract or carmine, then you know that it's from the bug, which obviously a bug's natural, right? But just because something's natural doesn't mean that it's good for you or that we should eat it. So if you're gonna buy stuff, if I buy stuff, I avoid the synthetic dyes, which is, the red 40 and the yellow and lake and all those. And then I would avoid this as well. So if you're going to buy stuff with coloring, buy stuff that's colored from fruit and vegetables. That's what I do
I'm
because then it
wondering,
comes from,
there's a health food store down the street that I saw the other day, vegan gummy bears, and it crossed my mind because when I started eating clean, my children started eating clean on of their own volition. They didn't even really ask too many questions. They got it right away. And they understood that that also meant any kind of candies they wanted to buy at the dollar store were off the table. So
yeah,
sometimes I feel a little bit like, oh, and I saw these gummy bears at the health food store and I almost grabbed them. Now I'm wondering if they are marketed as vegan gummy bears. Certainly that means that the red food dye is not a bug, I would hope. Like I guess I'm
yeah,
also questioning how transparent do they really have to be? Now we're talking about trusting the labeling process.
yeah. Well, and we can only do so much, with what we have unless you directly contact the companies. And then again, you have to trust that they're telling you the truth. So, all we can do is try our best to switch. That's what I do. I try to buy organic. And like with gummies and anything like that, supplements, I try to find vegan just to make sure that there's no gelatin in it because they do put that in a lot of stuff as well. And then most of the time when you're buying organic stuff, it will have like the colorings will come from fruits or vegetables. So, it'll say on the on the ingredient list. So that's the kind of stuff I look for, which makes sense. I mean, if you're going to use coloring, why not use it from a berry or from
Mhm.
actual vegetables and stuff to color things, instead of, but maybe this
Well,
other
and they
stuff's
and they
all
are
cheaper for them.
they're significantly more expensive if you buy vegan gummy bears at the natural organic vegan gummy bears are going to cost you a lot more than a package of sour kids at the dollar store. Like that just
Yes,
is what it
that's
is.
true. Anything, yeah. I mean, but you get what you pay for, right?
Yeah.
And I think for us, if our body's the temple and we want to take care of it, I'm going to pay extra if I can. Now, if other people can't afford that, all you can do is the best that you can, but you don't need to eat gummy bears. You know what I mean? Like,
I think
just
that's
buy
the
what you
point
can
is
afford. And
we're talking about a lot of this stuff. This is not whole foods. You don't run into these issues if you're eating whole foods. If you're eating meat and vegetables
yeah,
and fruit, it's not the same thing. The moment you start to, and a lot of people now, this going back to the old path and making their own bread and on top of it, milling their own bread. I think that there's a big call to do that
yeah,
for all of these reasons. You're not gonna, the only hair you're gonna find in your homemade milled bread is if some of your hair fell into it while you were baking.
yeah, which my hair, I do shed a lot, so I have to be careful. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that's actually something that I want to try to get into eventually. I'm just, right now I eat a lot of carnivore and stuff, so I don't eat a lot of carbs and stuff, right now, so it just doesn't really agree with my body. So, but checking into ancient grains and things like that might, be something worth looking into because I think a lot of the stuff we have today, they didn't have. It's all new, and I think that's part of it as well. So,
And convenient too, right? Like just the other day, I was talking
yeah,
to the kids about I haven't had a microwave in my house. I haven't had a microwave
yeah,
in my house, but the kids have been in other houses where there all are microwaves, and even at school, they go to a public school and there's a microwave. And I send them, if I send them with warm lunches, I send them in thermoses, and that's super important for me. And I would like it to be the same in both houses. Anyway, I'm just trying to say to the kids,
yeah,
it's very important that you don't put plastic in the microwave. And even at that, there are people of our generation who are just not aware of it. You know what I mean? They just don't.
yeah. Or metal, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. Don't put
I
your
send
thermos.
them. Yeah, anything metal is
Well,
not
I
good
mean, the
either. But
microwave
yeah,
in general is not good. The point is, if they're going to have warm
yeah,
food,
I don't have a microwave. Mine broke years ago and we never bought a new one. So we don't have a microwave. I
it's it.
don't
It's always
want
a
one.
blessing. It's a blessing when that microwave breaks. I have a client who hates the fact that she has a microwave because she's as crunchy as you can imagine, but she has it. It's there and she uses it. And if I'm there and she uses it, she always like kind of apologizes first and feels a little bit guilty for using it, but it's just so convenient. Oh, that was the conversation with the kids. Anyway, we're kind of hoping her microwave breaks so she can stop using it and feeling guilty about it. But the kids were really understanding that the more convenient an item is, the worse it generally is for your health, whatever it is, and even
Oh
like
yeah.
white paper towels and that kind of stuff, like none of that is good for us, but it's super convenient.
Yeah.
Tin foil, all of that kind of stuff. Teflon is like probably one of the worst things that was ever invented and incorporated into
Oh
modern
yes.
kitchens.
Yeah, well, and it's not just that, it's on anything that's basically waterproof. So raincoats, I mean, it's on all kinds of stuff. But yeah, because I mean, we use cast iron. It's been a process, going from throwing out all my stuff to getting cast iron and I would just tell people don't go overboard and just throw all your stuff away. Just buy one thing at a time and start replacing things. You can buy I have stainless steel, I have glass, and I have cast iron.
And
And
they're tried and true. And those cast iron pans will, I have had a number. I had them when my kids were little. I always cooked in them. I was vegetarian actually for a long time, but I knew that a cast iron pan would put at least some iron into my diet. And then I got into like, two young kids and I felt lazy to take care of cast iron. It's not really that difficult. Then I got back into the
Yeah.
Teflon habit. Anyway, it's been quite some time that I'm only using, as you mentioned, stainless steel and cast iron. But again, that one client with a
Yeah.
microwave, she's had her cast iron pot so long, it's the perfect, like it is like it looks like Teflon. It's been used for so long. It does nothing sticks to it. An egg will not
Oh
stick in it.
yeah.
That's because she's had it and maintained it for so long. And that's like
Yeah.
for me, it's
It's
so
seasoned
exciting.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. I got you off of your food list. Do you want to, I don't want to keep making you hop everywhere from, because you also
Oh,
mentioned
you're fine.
gelatin in vitamins, which we can get
Yeah.
into the,
I mean, I can go down my list if you want.
please,
You
yeah.
touched on shortening. Shortening was the other one that you called it lard, but like shortening, um, which it's in a lot of baked goods and things like that, which it can be lard or vegetable oils, which I try to avoid both, honestly. I mean, that's, because I don't think either are good for you. But biblically speaking, I definitely avoid the lard. And you had mentioned, like you said, it's in pie crusts and all kinds of stuff like that. So,
It's it. I
and
remember, I
I,
remember when I started down this path and I was spending some time with Messianic people, and they said something that was very true, which was just because it's kosher doesn't mean it's healthy.
that's
You know what I
right.
mean?
That's true.
And
Yeah,
it
just like
really
I was
stuck with
saying,
me.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, the other thing I had on my list was wine, which I
Yeah.
just started to research that. I mean, I don't really drink a lot of wine, so I didn't think of it. It's kind of the next thing that I'll look into. But let's see. There's animal derived fining agents that they use like during the process. And basically it's where they clarify the wine and it removes the cloudiness and improves appearance and stability. So that's why they do it. But that can actually come from, that's one that they could use shellfish in the process of that. So that would be where shellfish could come in. And then gelatin, that's another thing they use. So, uh, and then fish bladders, that was another thing that I learned. It's called, let's see, I I can't even pronounce that. It's like isinglass. That's how they say it, and it's actually a fish bladder. But like with a lot of things, it probably doesn't tell you, which fish that they used it, that it came from basically in the process. So for me, I probably will try to find, like, do you buy organic wine or kosher wine?
I'm not much of
I'm sure
a
there's options.
There are. I'm not much of a wine drinker either. I have tended toward kosher wine when I have bought it, just because I didn't understand what could make it not kosher, and I didn't even want to know. So yeah,
Yeah,
I don't drink wine nearly often enough. I mean, I've had wine maybe 2 times in the last year or something like that, and both times I bought kosher
yeah.
wine. But I had heard too, it was something like about the production and like who was actually allowed to touch the grapes, and like the whole deal was that there was no goyim touching the grapes or being near the
Oh,
field. So for me, I was like, okay, I'm not drinking kosher.
well, yeah, because that's something I did want to get into about the difference between biblically clean and kosher. When you find things that are like kosher certified and like what that actually means, because it doesn't mean that it comes from the Bible, right? It doesn't mean that it's biblically clean. It's basically what they say from Judaism, basically, to be kosher certified. It has to be by the standards of the rabbis.
So would it
So,
not be
yeah.
more strict? Like, would it not be a safer cut of meat to eat? I've also seen meat that is kosher and halal at the same time. So I don't know if that's a matter of like both religious leaders praying over the meat or what.
Well, from what I saw, that I don't see that in kosher. I don't like from my research that they don't pray over it. It's just how they basically the process goes. Who's doing it? It has to be somebody who's certified, and it has to be overseen by a rabbi to make sure that it's kosher, you know. And now halal is a totally different thing because they do pray over the meat and they offer it, you know, they pray to Allah. And that's, they have to do that for it to be considered, you know, to
So
get that certification.
I'm gonna throw
So
this
for
at
me,
you.
that's different.
Yeah. Do you think that that counts as us eating meat sacrificed to idols?
I would say yes. I would
Sounds
say
like
it's
it.
different than
Yeah.
kosher because in kosher, it's just the way that they're processing it, who's touching it, you know, basically like that. It doesn't, it's, you know, I didn't see anywhere, even if they did pray, if they prayed, you know, to Yah, you know, it's not like, but then again, I don't know. I can't say who's, you know, who they're praying to. But when it comes to the halal stuff, that's totally different because they are praying, they have to pray to, you know, Allah when they're killing the animal. And so I wouldn't buy that. I don't buy halal stuff because of that, because it's basically, in my eyes, it's sacrifice to a false deity. So I think it falls under a different category,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Sure. Do you know
So that's how I
anything?
see it.
I put out on the internet that I was looking for someone, and then someone was like, "Oh, why don't you ask Tracy?" I'm like, I don't know why I didn't ask Tracy. I would like to leave it for a future episode, about the boiling the blood and all that stuff. I don't want to talk too much about it because I think it, but I'm wondering if when meat is kosher, if they ensure that the animal is bled out more than other butchers might do. Yeah.
Yes, I would say yeah, for sure.
Because I was researching a little bit in preparation for this about kosher salt. Because again, like the wine, I'm like, what makes salt kosher? Like, there's no bits of shellfish in it. Like, why is it not kosher? And do you know why salt is kosher?
I haven't looked into it, but I think it would just fall under the same category. I
Not
can go
even,
see
not
here.
even. It just means that they use it to prepare, to make the food appropriate to eat. So they use kosher salt is a bigger, larger flaked leaf salt which absorbs the blood a little bit better and more quickly is all it is than if you're trying to do that brining process with table salt. The salt isn't kosher. It's just what it's called.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I didn't know because, like, I just know, like, for something to actually be labeled kosher, it has to be according to what the rabbis
We
say
can
is
we can check
kosher.
that check packages in
So,
the
yeah.
grocery store of kosher salt, and I don't think it's a certification. It's just the word because the word kosher
Oh,
means,
yeah.
you know what I mean? I don't know
Yeah.
the exact
Yeah. If it's just,
translation.
yeah, if it doesn't, like, when I say kosher certification, I'm talking about the little
Yeah,
stamp that
yeah,
says the K.
yeah,
Yeah, not just the word kosher salt. Like, yeah, I'm talking about like this actual certification.
yeah.
So yeah, that's probably just something different. I haven't really looked into that.
All right, I
I
stopped you
just
at
looked
wine.
into,
I derailed you at wine, I think.
oh yeah, you're fine. Yeah, so that was just the thing I was just looking into because like I said, I don't really drink a whole lot of wine. The other thing was, um, let's see, it was basically like glycerin. I'm sure you've heard of that, glycerin or glycerol. And it's basically just like a clear odorless liquid. Um, and they use it like to hold moisture and to improve texture. And it can be plant-based or vegetable. So it can be like coconut oil, palm oil, soy oil, which if I was gonna buy one, I would buy one that says vegetable, but I would make sure that it was coconut oil. Me personally, because I'm not gonna buy soy oil. You know what I'm saying? I avoid that, but the seed oils in general. But and then the other, it could also be animal derived. So which it can come from animal fats. And again, you know, they're not gonna tell you which animal fats it came from unless it's directly listed, but most of the time it's not. But basically, with that, they use it in food and supplements, baked goods, candy, frostings, chewing gum, protein bars, herbal tinctures. People who make soap, they buy glycerin. to make soap, toothpaste, mouthwash. So that's in a lot of things too. But like I said, I would look for vegetable glycerin or organic. Well, I would buy organic, me personally, but vegetable glycerin or coconut derived glycerin, just to ensure that it's not, and unclean animal
That's
fat.
a huge surprise for me too, because glycerin, I don't know why. I have made candles in the past, and I've made it with specifically using vegetable. It did not
Yeah.
occur to me for a second that there were products potentially in my even bathroom cabinet that have pig glycerin in them. Good. I didn't want to
Yeah,
ask
it's
you too many
crazy.
questions before because I wanted to be surprised.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Horrible.
it's almost in everything, basically. I mean, like I wouldn't, and it's just labeled glycerin or glycerol, and you don't know, like I said, unless it's vegetable.
So
Like when I buy,
glycerol, if we read glycerin
yeah,
or glycerol, it could potentially be animal derived, which could mean it could be from pork.
yep, unless it actually says vegetable glycerin. Yeah. So if you buy it, look for vegetable glycerin or coconut derived glycerin.
So, but
So
like
yeah.
kind of like we said earlier, if we chose the vegan option, it could potentially be GMO
Yeah,
frankincense.
so that's why I would buy organic, me personally. When I
Because
try to buy anything, I always try to look for organic first.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I know not everybody can afford that, so buy what you can. Buy, vegetable glycerin and not just one that could have animal fats in it, just to ensure that it doesn't have pork in it. But health wise, if you can buy organic, that's what I would do. Because that's just me. Like I said, me personally,
Yeah,
that's what
because
I do.
we're talking about much more than just potential harmful pesticides on organic vegetables. We're talking about much larger repercussions.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and just, trying to take care of your body, you know, spiritually and physically, Um, let's see. And then the other thing too that I had actually studied probably in 2020 when I was a Christian. There was a company, it was called Cenomix.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of that. It's Senomyx. And basically, it's a biological company where they focused on developing flavor, like enhancers. And basically, by studying how taste receptors respond to different compounds. And basically, like that company, you're not going to find it anymore because it was actually bought by a Swiss flavor and fragrance company called Firmenich. So they're still in operation. So now that's what the company's called. Um, it's called like DSM Firmenich. So that's what it's called now. But basically, they acquired all of their research and all their patents and everything from that company. Um, but basically, the science of it is they're using some of these same cell lines that we find in the development of the injections, like HEC 293. Um, so yeah, it's pretty shocking. I kind of got into some of the science of it. I don't know if you want me to explain some of that, but like the way they do
I
it.
would
But yeah,
absolutely love it because it's horrifying. I mean, you see things on memes and go the fast food industry and then like, stem cells and all this, and I don't really understand it. I don't know if they're trying to say that there are pieces of babies in the food. I don't know. But
that's
yes,
what, well,
that said, if you can explain it, that would be good.
yeah, that's the claims, but the company does not, like when you look at the science and stuff, that's not really how it works. But even besides that, for me, it doesn't have to be in the food. If they're testing things and doing things like this, I'm not going to support those companies besides the point whether it's in the end product or not. Same thing with the injections, whether it's in the injection or not, they still use these cell lines in the development. So even then, I'm not gonna support that, because I'm not, it's a sin. We know that. So
That's
so
such a
here it
good
says,
point, Tracy. It's such a good
yeah,
point.
yeah, it's just like something doesn't have to be pagan for me to know that it's not for me, right? So that's where discernment and stuff comes in too. And it's not always black and white like people like. It's kind of like Jesse was saying how people try to find loopholes and stuff when it comes to certain things. And I just don't think we should do that either. So, okay, so this is some notes I did on how taste receptor testing works. And it says scientists use lab-grown cells like HEC293. They engineer these cells to produce specific human taste receptor proteins. It says, for an example, receptors involved in like sweet or savory signals. It says, then they expose the cells to different candidate compounds, potential flavor enhancers. It says if the compound activates a taste receptor, the cell produces a measurable signal, a light or a chemical signal. That signal tells the researchers this compound triggers the sweet receptor, or this compound signals like a savory signal. Let's see. It says the compound shows useful receptors activity, and then they can be developed further to modify flavors. So this is how they test flavors, and then they would sell these flavors to food companies. So like, I don't know if you want me to list some, but I had some listed. I'm sure there's more, but like Schweppes is one, Cadbury, Campbell Soup Company, the Coca-Cola Company, Kraft, Kraft Food Global, or Nestle's, and then Soleil. So like I found this out in like 2020. So since that time, like I don't buy Crafts. Anything that Crafts makes, I don't buy. Anything that Nestle makes, I don't buy. I don't buy Coca-Cola products. I don't buy a lot of these things because of that.
There's a lot of
I choose not.
reasons. There are loads of reasons to
Yeah.
boycott all of these companies, but the ethical concerns of using the
Yeah.
technology that you're talking about, I had no
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, how do they even know this stuff? Like, it's like I don't like who came up with this stuff. It just kind of it's kind
It
of
was
mind
probably the
blowing. Like,
Nephilim, Tracy. The Nephilim probably
it
taught it to them.
probably, you're probably right. Honestly, they did teach them. I mean, seriously though, we don't know. I mean, how else would they know this stuff? I don't like who would just think to do that stuff. It doesn't.
It sounds very dark. It does sound like it's from another realm
Yeah,
of darkness. Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, so I mean, because I knew about some of this stuff, but just kind of studying the research and how it actually works. So basically, that's how they come up with certain flavors. So it's not like they're actually putting that stuff in the food,
Yeah.
but for me, that doesn't matter. I mean, I think we should be careful spreading stuff and saying, oh, it's in the food and it's this and that. That's not true, right? But I think we should still understand how things work like that. If you're going to talk about it or put out little memes and stuff, you should know like what, the research and like how it actually works, just to be informed. That's what I do. I like to study, so
Because the
and
truth, like
research.
with this, the truth is shocking enough. You don't have to make it
Yeah.
seem as though people are putting actual blood or flesh in it. I mean, symbolically,
Yeah.
it's enough. It's horrifying enough. You don't need to exaggerate it. The
Yeah.
truth
Well, and
is,
I think, yeah, I think the truth matters if, we want to be people who are wise, and not just spreading all kinds of stuff that's not true.
No,
I
and then
don't think we should
everybody
do that,
loses
you
their
know?
credibility in that way. Then you
Yeah,
get the
exactly.
tinfoil hat and nobody believes anything that
Yeah.
you've been saying for the last 5 years, even though it's all coming true.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it just comes with wisdom, like wanting to be wise and, you know, test everything, right? Really research stuff and, before you just share stuff, that's what I would encourage. That's what I like to do because part, you know, I mean, obviously they are using the cell lines, but maybe not everything that everybody's sharing is true. And then you can lose your witness and your credibility because of that. And so, yeah, I agree. We definitely have to be careful. Yeah, yeah, it's pretty dark stuff. And like I said, so some of that stuff I already knew, and I haven't been buying, things from certain companies for a while because of that. And then, like for me before, because I just came to Torah last year, so now these other ingredients and stuff is new stuff that I'm
Mhm.
studying, with like the monodiglycerides and glycerin and things like that. And, they come from, you know, unclean animal fats and stuff. So it's like another layer of research for me, now that I eat biblically clean. So, but yeah, I mean, because there are things I avoided as a Christian, with the injections and, certain companies that use those same cell lines. I've avoided those things for years, but,
Mhm.
and then getting into the biblically clean stuff, that's kind of newer territory for me. So,
Yeah, and I mean, I thought I kind of had it figured out until we're having this conversation. Like I said, I'm not super worried because I don't have loads of processed stuff in my house anyway, but to go and
yeah,
check the backs of the packages and just, like if I buy crackers, I
yeah,
tend to buy like organic rice chia seed crackers anyway. I don't think I'm gonna find that stuff in it, but um I'm definitely gonna check. For sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely read the labels. That's what I'd say too.
Yeah. Some of the stuff is just so surprising. I'll take a minute. Maybe if you have other stuff for food, we can come back to it after. But just when you were talking about the cell lines, I had poked around just with the injections. Um Not anything too in deep. I was happily very detached from it. Like this is a topic that if I had to research, I started researching it 14 years ago, after my daughter had a reaction, and I did enough research to know that I wasn't going to continue down that path anymore. But it was a very scary, emotionally charged time for me where we were coming up on 18 months and like different choices that I could have made differently that praise yeah, he was there with us from the beginning, so we just avoided all of it. Um so I've told the story that this is one of the reasons that I quit journalism was I started researching injections and saw what they could lead to. And I was just beside myself in not understanding how the general population didn't know or believe this. And I genuinely, poor, naive, young 27-year-old Jenny thought she was going to change the world by telling the truth about what was in these things. And the truth is, no magazine wanted to let me publish my story. Nobody cared.
yeah.
Nobody cared.
It's sad.
So
Yeah, it's
I quit that line of work because I realized then and there that nobody actually cares about the truth. I had finished journalism school and I'm like, all right, got into it and almost got out of it after not too long. Anyway,
yeah,
so looking back at this the other day, I'm just saying that I was emotionally very detached from it as somebody who's been kind of a hypochondriac and very worried about my kids' health because I made the decision to not do these things. I always was going against the government or going against the general population, and that pressure that gets put on your shoulders if you're not making the same decision as people. It was a very stressful time for me when I was raising the kids because, if they had to go in an ambulance or to the doctors or anything like that, there was huge. One time we called an ambulance because my son was having breathing problems. It sounded like asthma, and he didn't have asthma, and something was gravely wrong. I think in the end he ate too much honeydew melon and he just had lots of phlegm. Like it was just such a strange thing. But the moment we got in the, it called an ambulance. the moment we got in the ambulance, the person attending discovered that he hadn't had his shots. So when we got
Oh goodness.
for whatever pertussis or something like that, so when we got to the hospital, the nurse that was there were two nurses. I love that mug. I have the same one. Actually, Jesse has the blue one and I have the pink one. The nurse that was there goes to the other nurse. He goes, "Tag, you're it," and he refused to serve us because I had not given my kid the shot. It was like it was always a horrifying experience. Anyway, now I know
Yeah.
that I did the right thing. That was just a side note to say that I'm super grateful that I made the decisions I did, even if they were hard. And in coming back to this, I was not even a little bit emotionally triggered because I've already made what I know is the correct decision. But when we were talking about the cell lines, I just found it interesting that they kind of in the dialogue around it, um, they're saying, "Oh, but we haven't had to use any more." What term were we going to use for this, Tracy? What honest term were we going to use?
Well, I mean, they say that they basically clone them. And that was another thing I looked into as well, because they say that human cells, just like normal human cells, you can only clone them so many times and then you can't do it
Mm.
anymore. So they
Right.
do things to it so that they call it a mortalized cell line basically. So they've done something to the cells to where they can just copy them endlessly, and supposedly they're still using them from, the 70s or whatever. There's different cell lines obviously, and they tell you, where they came from and the date and everything, but I just find that hard to believe, honestly. um, I'm sure you've done some research into that, but it's again trusting. Do you
No,
actually
it's
trust
stressing,
that?
but
I
I just
don't.
I was sorry. My kids are in another city and they're texting me to tell me that they're at their dad's house and I'm trying to quietly tell them to stop texting me and they think I'm mad at them or something. So stop stop making it ping. Um, I found it funny, not funny, but on the lines of what you're saying. They said, "Oh, we haven't actually had to abort any more babies and use that since the 60s, you know. So it's okay. We only had to do it that one time." I just find it so
Yeah. Well, and they always say, like, when you do the research, it was from a legal abortion. So the mother chose to do it, and then they just decided to use it for research, right? Or, I just, like, that really matters if it was legal or not,
well,
right? Because
and of
we know
course
in the
to
eyes
the
of the,
vast majority of people it does, but we're talking about for us as people who believe in
yeah,
the entire Bible, like, and I know
right.
some states have gotten rid of religious exemptions, and the reality is if you are a Bible believer and pro-life, you should not be injecting dead baby cells into your body or into your children's body. It doesn't work. I never
Yeah,
understood any of that. Like I knew Christian homeschoolers were special and like all this stuff, I just didn't understand why that was such a big deal because I didn't until having my kids, I just didn't it would never have occurred to me what ingredients would be in
yeah. Well,
these
and
products
yeah,
that we're putting
that's,
into our blood.
yeah. Well, and they try to say that it's not in them because they use them in the development of it, but then they supposedly clean it. They purify it so that that none of the cells are actually in it. But again, if you trust them and say that they actually did that and they got all the cells out, you know what I'm saying? Like,
But
so
and even then you do have the ethical concerns. That's the whole
yeah,
point.
yeah,
And I was
that's
reading
my point too, is that you can't be like, I know people who are pro-life in my life who are Christians, but then they get injections. And it's like, to me, it doesn't work that way. You can't be pro-life and then put something in your body that came from, death and murder. Basically, it's murder,
if
if we're
you
going to
look
be
when
honest.
I was looking at this a little bit, the Catholic Church is like, yeah, it's all right because if you get this, then you'll protect all these other lives. So this is the ethical thing to do. That's the dialogue
Yeah, it doesn't.
from the Pope. So I was reading, even though they said they stopped using new cells in the 60s, Johnson and Johnson, for the COVID one, they used cells from an abortion in 1985. Um, and then there were human embryonic kidney cells used to make another vaccine in 1972. Anyway, just to say this stuff is not done. They're constantly still working at it. Also in
Yeah.
injections, you have to watch out as well. As if the dead babies wasn't enough, you have to watch out for gelatin as well. Collagen
Yeah.
can sometimes come from pork as well.
Yeah, and along with all the other stuff that's in it that comes from things that you shouldn't put in your body either,
Yeah.
like the whole list of ingredients. But
It's like if you, I'm
yeah,
looking
it's
here,
like,
there's chicken embryos, so that's gross, but at least they're clean, but then the polio vaccines were grown in a mouse cell line, so that's gross. And
yeah,
then there was another egg-free to make an egg-free flu vaccine. It was derived in the 50s from the kidney of a Cocker Spaniel.
yeah. And then wasn't there like a monkey kidney too? I mean,
I
like they
didn't
use
come
all
across
these
a monkey one,
animals.
but yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
because
still
I'm sure
wild.
each one has different ways they make it. But yeah, all of it's just like, no, I don't want to put that in my body. And yeah, it's just from a biblical standpoint, even if those other ingredients weren't in it, just the way they develop
Yeah.
it is not okay in my eyes. It's not okay in Yah's eyes. And so I don't think we should support that at all. But, you know,
I've got
each person
two.
has to,
Yeah, with their own salvation for sure. I've got two gelatin,
yeah,
as you kind of mentioned earlier, just any kind of. I've been noticing in the supplements that I've bought, again, maybe when they are of higher quality and or organic, it just seems to come with the territory. They're mostly vegan capsules. I don't remember the last time I
yeah.
came across something that was a pork capsule. Um,
It's in, yeah, I mean, like you said, it's porcine. Well, I mean, it can be bovine as well, but unless it's specifically labeled, I wouldn't buy it because
I
it is
have
in a lot of things.
I have here for prescription and over-the-counter drugs like Colace or
Yep,
Tylenol seems to come from have gelatin shells. Um,
yep, and then the dyes and stuff. So I try to buy. I mean, I try not to use that stuff anyways, but I do have it in case I absolutely need it, and I try to get the dye free. And there's other alternatives that you can buy. It can come in different
oh,
forms and things.
you were
So
mentioning the other day exactly that just a tablet, just like a without a gel
yeah,
cap would be a safer option. Again, we're not talking about this was other shows talking about whether pharmakeia is good or bad. That's besides the point. The point is
yeah.
putting unclean products in our bodies.
Yeah, yeah, there's other options. I mean, they come in, like if I'm gonna buy something at the store, I'm not gonna buy a gel cap, or I don't know what else they call them, gelatin capsule.
Yeah.
I'm gonna buy a different form if I'm gonna buy something, or I'm
I
buying
wonder too, I'm
vegan.
wondering about liquid now that just what you're talking about, like the glycerol and all that kind of stuff. I bet you that those liquid kind of, remember, like, like Tylenol for
Yeah,
babies that comes in liquid is probably all that same stuff.
yeah, you would just have to read the ingredients on everything. Because even before, like I said, even just as a Christian, I would buy the holistic medicines even, because I tried to switch everything out when I started, eating, healthier. Obviously, I wasn't eating according to Torah yet. That wasn't until last year, but as a Christian, I started changing a lot of things and buying natural stuff, organic and things like that. And so, you can look for those alternatives too. Because a lot of times they use natural stuff instead of just buying your Tylenol and, the name brand type stuff. I mean, like in the baby sections, they have holistic medicines and stuff. So at least where I go to my store, they do. So, or you can order online, if you just need to have something on hand. So, I mean,
I mean, yeah,
because I know
I
like
don't think we're
I don't
saying
just,
that we want to necessarily have a cabinet full of Tylenol. The point is that
yeah, exactly.
there are hidden ingredients in whether it's Tylenol or junk food or whatever. The point is that
Yep.
now we have a little bit of a list to, well, you've had it for a while, but
Yeah.
now I have a list, and anybody else who any of this is
Yeah.
new to can go check out some of the things in their medicine cabinet, even if it's toothpaste or, anything like that. I
Yeah.
don't want to be brushing my teeth with pig.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, with me, I don't like if my kids have a fever, I don't just give them medicine. I try to let the body do what it's supposed to do. But I like to have things on hand if I need them. But my go-tos would be holistic medicines that they do sell at the store. I mean, I shop at Meijer and they sell it in the baby section.
Mhm.
So when I do buy things, I still buy healthier, clean stuff, um, if I need it, because it's not about, rejecting things that are needed, right? It's not about taking it so far that like you were saying, that we just, neglect our children if they need something. It's just making wiser decisions, because there are other options, we do have some choices. So yeah. The other thing too was magnesium stearate or stearic acid. That was another one. Which it would just be, I don't know if you buy supplements and things. Um, I can read this here. It says, so magnesium stearate, other ingredients can sometimes be animal derived depending on the manufacturer, including things like magnesium stearate, which basically is a magnesium salt of stearic acid. And so stearic acid is a fatty acid. And so that's how they make magnesium stearate. It's a compound made from stearic acid and magnesium. And so it says these are not active ingredients. They are basically the inactive ingredients that's in, whether it's medications or supplements and things like that. So, and it would just be labeled as, magnesium stearate.
So are you
So,
saying it's pork?
well, it just says that it can be derived from animal fats. So, yeah, because it's a fatty acid. So, I mean, that's the thing with a lot of these ingredients, they don't tell you where it comes from. So, that was just another thing that I found out because I didn't know that either. Yeah, it says it can be derived from either plant or unclean animal fats. So, and like I said, so they're not going to tell you, it's just going to say magnesium stearate on your supplement or your medication, but it's not going to tell you whether it came from a plant or the animal.
Okay, so
So,
again, it's another case of if it was a possible option to opt for something vegan and hope it's not GMO.
yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. And then the other one was antibiotics.
Hmm.
A lot of them are made. A lot of them come in gel capsules, which it could be porcine or bovine, but it's often porcine. Soft gels, and sometimes with the antibiotics, it has magnesium stearate in it.
Hmm.
So, and so basically it says that, the antibiotic itself is synthetic, but it depends on what they put in it. Like I said, the inactive ingredients, or just maybe it's the capsule that it comes in or the soft gel that it comes in. And so with that, if you have to have one, you can ask for a tablet instead,
Hmm.
or a liquid suspension, or a compounded medication using like a vegetarian capsule. So that's just, I mean, I don't personally go get antibiotics. I haven't in years. But if it was needed, you just have to. just be aware and then ask for the alternatives, just to make sure.
It's something that I would never, I mean, I don't, same boat as you. I don't remember the last time I was near them, but it would never really cross my mind to think about it. So I guess that's it. That was kind of the whole point of doing this show, is because we're not the
Yeah,
only
it's
two
just,
that wouldn't have thought about all these random things hiding. Like it's like lurking under
yeah,
the little corner, every little corner, there's some weird little ingredient that you never would have expected. It really is kind of in everything.
yeah.
So,
Yeah,
and
and
I
like I
think
said, for me, studying a lot of this stuff is new since like I said, I only just came to Torah last year. So, it's a whole other level for me in studying. But, like I don't, with my boys, my first son, Case, he was vaccinated, but um, it was before I came like to the Messiah, but I didn't know anything about vaccines back then. But when me and my husband went to the first visit, we both had this like really sick feeling in our stomachs and we didn't want to do it. And so, I mean, I would say that was probably God, because we didn't know why. We didn't know anything about him. I never studied, never thought about it, but we just felt just, like almost like I don't want to do this. Both me and my husband felt that. And so we asked the pediatrician, do we have to do this? And she said, yeah, you have to. Basically, you don't have a choice, which was a lie because there are exemptions and, they're supposed to tell you about that, but they didn't. And we didn't know any better. So we're like, well, then can we just spread them out, instead of giving all these at once? Because, like, most of the time in one injection, people don't know. It looks like one injection, but there's really like
yeah,
four or five in one at one time. And so we, opted for the other. I mean, we would have not done it, but she lied and said we didn't have a choice, which I don't even know how she could, you know, legally do that. Um, that's
definitely
wrong for
not. They don't,
sure.
definitely don't operate under informed consent. That's not the,
Yeah, because we would have definitely said, okay, and then we don't want to do it, but you know,
yeah,
back I
but I
mean
guess
they
it's
used
a,
to
it is
get
a,
paid, so
it's, yeah, that's it. And it's a case of we do better once we know, it's
yeah,
just reminding me of the um a verse in Hebrews that kind of says, once you know, if then you go on and continue to sin, there's no
yeah,
covering for you. And it's the same with everything. When we know better, we have to just
yeah.
do better for
One,
ourselves and for our
yeah,
kids. And
yeah, and even at that time, it was before I came to the Messiah, and I wasn't, I didn't know anything about any of it. And then, like my son, he was sick like the whole first year. Was sick all the time, and he had to get antibiotics a lot and breathing treatments, and um, I don't really remember like at what age it was, but me and my husband are pretty sure he had a reaction to one when he was probably 7 or 8 months old. He just basically he got one and then he just like he went to sleep and then when he woke up he just cried and he like you just couldn't console him and he just got a fever and we called them and they're like, oh, he's fine, it's normal, just give him Tylenol. And it's like, well, he's my son, I know he's not acting normal you know and then he had some sensory issues like I couldn't flush the toilet because the sound was too loud for him. So he would have to like cover his ears and stuff. So he just had just some of those issues and so basically I don't know with my second child when I went to like the first appointment and again I didn't want to do it but I went to the same pediatrician, and I think he got his first one, which I think that was just the Hep B one. That was the only one that they get at their first week appointment, which I don't even know why they need a
I think it's
hepatitis B
gone now.
shot.
If I'm under the impression that it's wiped from your country. They're not doing that
I
anymore.
hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then after that, I never went back to a well visit. We stopped going. I just told my pediatrician that I was fine. I found a new doctor,
Yeah,
which
that's what
at
those
that,
visits are for. I ended up doing the same thing.
yeah,
I got the guilt trip every single time that I went. I was lectured, I was this,
yeah,
I was judged. Was like we were like co-sleeping, like the babies were sleeping in the bed and I was nursing and like you weren't allowed to tell them that because then they would tell you that you were endangering them. It was just like everything I was
oh
doing
yeah,
was against what they wanted me to be doing, so I just stopped going. I didn't go.
yeah, yeah. So after that first week visit with my second son, I never went back, and so it was, you know, he yeah, he didn't get anything else after that. And my first boy, we stopped with his too. So we don't just we don't go to doctors, I mean, unless it's an emergency or something, but other than that, they don't go. And like I did take them only because I was pressured by my blood sister, my older sister. She's a nurse, and she fully believes in the medical system, and she's always worried about my boys because I don't give them injections and they don't go to, you know, yearly checkups and all this stuff. We homeschool, so like, she's always worried about my kids. So we ended up taking them to a holistic doctor, and I don't know how old my son was. I think that was actually after I came to the Messiah. So my youngest was probably 18 months or a little older than that. And Case was probably 4. And so we went to the holistic doctor, and she just kind of, said that he has sensory issues and stuff. And she gave him a tincture, and a lot of his sensory issues went away. So,
Do you remember
yeah,
what it
praise God for
was?
that. I don't remember what it was. I mean, they made their own tinctures there, so I can't remember. It was basically
The very
something
little I
to
know about,
calm.
yeah, the
Yeah,
little I know about that stuff is that when kids cannot properly, like the kids that get very badly damaged are the ones that can't properly filter out these toxins, right? Because we
yeah.
didn't talk about thermorisol and mercury and formaldehyde and
Oh, yeah.
fluoride. The body can't filter these. Some
Mhm.
bodies are less able. So I think myself and my kids have MTHFR. I don't know if you know this gene mutation.
Mm-mm.
Um, Whatever. Now we're definitely off tangent, but one of the effects of that gene mutation is improper what I say filtration uh detoxification. So um I think a lot of times the kids who have the most difficulty and do become injured is that they can't, you know what I mean? They can't get rid of the,
Yeah.
you're not supposed to be putting this stuff in the body, but we're very well designed. But some of us have mutations which don't allow us to pass the chemicals out as, anyway, I think that
Yeah.
probably
Well, and with my
you not
son,
going back saved
yeah.
that kid who probably would have been in a much bigger problem if you continue to
Oh,
drink.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because he wasn't like, it was mild compared to others who, where, you know, a kid was talking and walking and then they stopped talking and all that. Like he wasn't like that, but I just noticed a lot, and he was sick a lot, I mean, he had, like I said, he had an ear infections. Like I actually, after starting to look into some of this stuff, there was like a list of things, and he had probably 75% of the things on the list
Yeah.
that would have came from the injections and stuff, and just symptoms like eczema and just all kinds of stuff. um 80, like hyperactive, and so that was another reason why we avoided like the red dyes and stuff.
Mhm.
And so yeah, that was so it's definitely been a process, because like I said, learning about these things after the father called me and waking me up, and then really just looking into all these things. It's been a process, and then into the food, and now here we are. and now I eat biblically clean. So now just even going further with a lot of these hidden things that's in so much stuff. Yeah, it's just
Thank you for coming to share all of that with us. I know it was a lot, but I'm super, super grateful because you have a mind that I know you're very humble, but you have a mind that allows you to compile things in a easy to comprehend fashion for the rest of us. So
yeah.
this has
Well,
been,
that's how I learned, so it's easier
yeah,
for me to
yeah,
to
no,
like,
you did a great job.
keeps me organized. So
Yeah, yeah, that's good. Well, don't put out your list yet. Let's get this one up on the internet and then you can, I don't want you to ruin the surprise, but you got quite the list there. That's really awesome, Tracy. I'm gonna
mm,
check on the back of my, but again, like I buy toothpaste from the health food store. I don't think I'm not too worried about my house, but I'm happy to have raised
yeah.
some awareness for some of the sneaky things that people can go and check out. Thank you very, very much, Tracy. I have two more show ideas I want to do with you, so I'll message you after. Hope you have a great rest of
Yeah,
your day. Thank you so much for making the
you
time.
too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
Covered, yeah. Not in gold or pearls or fame.